Hey guys, I want to show you 3 essential knots for light lure and BFS fishing. So, let's go. Hey guys, I know a lot of you are just getting into light lure fishing and it can be really confusing. There's a lot of different knots out there, but it is essential to know which knots to use in the correct place. I'm going to cover in this video 3 different types of knots which will cover all of your bases, and they are absolutely the most tried and tested knots, and they'll get you out on the water fishing confidently and properly. So the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to show you how to connect your braided line to your fluorocarbon leader. I'm also going to show you how to connect crankbaits and jerkbaits. So this is micro jerkbait, micro crankbait, something which I was using for chub a lot this summer, and how to connect that properly. And finally, I'm going to show you how to connect your little jigs and Ned rigs properly with one of the strongest knots I know. So with these 3 knots, you should be covered for everything. So let's get into it. First of all, let's cover off how you connect your braided line to your fluorocarbon leader. Now there's a lot of different knots out there. Probably the best one is the FG knot, but for beginners and for people like myself, incredibly difficult knot to tie on the bank. And although when it's tied properly, it is absolutely the strongest knot, if it's not tied properly, it will fail. So it's imperative that you do a knot which you can use and do it well on the bank. So I'm going to show you the knot which I use, which is the Improved Albright Knot, and it is excellent, really, really good. It connects the line so well. I will straighten out hooks before this knot gives. So let me go through it. This is it here. Obviously I'm using much sort of like stronger, higher strength braid than we would use, and for the leader material this is much bigger, but this is purely just for visual purposes so you can see what's going on. So you've got your fluorocarbon leader like this, so we make a big loop, probably give yourself maybe sort of 4 inches, something along the lines of that, 3 or 4 inches, and you just pull it down like that. Okay, you just put a little kink in it. There we go. Got a kink in it, just so it holds. Right, so now we take our braided line, we pass it through as so. So that's there. And we take probably about 6 inches, enough that you can wrap around, because we're going to wrap it up and wrap it back down this line. So we're like that. Now we lock it off here, just grab it. And then let's just work this round. Now you want to work this around 8 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now we stop there, we lock that back, and now we just wrap this back up round 1, 2, 3, and what you're trying to do is cross over on each of the joins. 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, once we get up to here, now this is the improved part of the Albright knot. Now, before you go back through, instead of passing it back through here, the last loop, you just bring it through. And I'll explain this to you. We bring this through 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now, on the traditional Albright knot, you pass it back through here and then pull it tight. When you do this, you're locking off the line in here when this all tightens down, which means you can trim this right back to the actual knot. So you can trim the tag end of your braid right back to the actual knot. Why do you do that? Because when you come to casting, those tag ends can be an absolute nightmare. They can really, so I'll just wet this, they can catch when you're casting, and if you don't tighten this down properly, you'll keep on catching it through your guides in your rod, and sometimes it will catch the line coming off the actual reel. So having the ability to chop that tag end down there really tight to the knot is really important. And it's the same with this back bit. You need to get that as close as you can to the knot, and that will avoid those. What you'll see is when you tighten this right down, the knot will change colour, and that means it's cinched right down, so it's tight and it will be solid. It will feel quite solid. Right, so now we can, these trimmers aren't the best, they're definitely not good for braid, so excuse me for using these because it probably won't cut it really well, and it certainly won't cut it as close as you want to get it. You want braid scissors which are serrated for cutting braid really. And then we cut this one right back, right to the end. As I said, that's even too much. And that is the Improved Albright Knot. Obviously this will be a lot smaller and a lot more compact. And I've done a bad job of trimming this down. You want it tighter than that. You want it to the actual knot itself. Otherwise that will catch. What happens when you cast, that can come round and catch like that, and it's incredibly annoying. So you do need to trim that down. So just be aware, get that bit right back down. Okay. Hey guys, so the next knot I want to show you is the knot which we use to attach crankbaits and jerkbaits, and it is called the Rapala Knot. The Rapala Knot is really useful. I used it a lot on micro crankbaits like this one, the Dyra Pro X Micro Minnow, which I was catching chub on all summer. What it does is it leaves a little loop. And it's very important that that loop is left there, because if you tightened a knot right down onto the actual crankbait or jerkbait, there wouldn't be a loop there, and it would impede the action of this. In fact, this lure wouldn't work properly. So it's important that that loop is kept there. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So for the purposes of this, we'll use a bigger lure. This is a Salmo Hornet. And obviously we're using much bigger line, much thicker line. So this would probably be like 6 pound Fluorocarbon Leader. So first of all, you take about 3 inches, you make a loop, as so. Tighten that loop down a bit, so it just holds itself a bit. So you got that. Now we take our leader material, pass it, the tag end, through, and we pull that tight to here. And what we do is we just pass this line back through the loop there, pull it tight, wants to go down to about there, and then once it's there we lock it off. At this stage we do 3 turns, 1, 2, 3, and then we just come back through the hole there, which is that. At this stage, you can just pull on both ends to get the sort of desired length. That's about where you want it. I fact, I've made that very, very tight, that one. Usually you want a bit more of a loop than that. Ideally, the loop wants to be probably about that kind of size. As you can see here, I've made this one a little bit tight, but for the purposes of this video, you can see that it's not tight to the thing, so it's going to allow movement in there, a lot of movement, and that lure will work properly with that tiny little bit of leeway there. And then all you have to do is basically chop off the tag end, as so. I wish I'd used much smaller scissors rather than these big things, but you can do it like that, and that lure will now be able to freely move like that. And that is the Rapala knot. It's really, really simple, and it's a great knot and very, very strong if you tie it properly. Easy to tie on the bank. I also use the Rapala knot when I'm using these little cheb weights, and as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see here, I've got it just like that. And the reason I do that is it really helps with being able to interchange. So if you want to interchange your heads, you can pull this off like that, unhook it quickly, change your heads, come back on like this, and then you can quickly pass through here. And you can pass it back through here easily. And what it means is that little knot can pass through that hole there easily. So that's a little bonus tip there for you guys who are just getting into it. I think that's a really sort of neat way of dealing with chebs. Of course, I'm not the expert on all of this stuff, but I'm just showing you what I do. If you have other ideas about this, I'd love to hear from you, because obviously we're all learning about this, and there's some very experienced people out there, so you can share your thoughts, but that's how I do it, and I find it works really well. Okay, finally, this is a much more standard knot, and this knot we use across the board. This is my absolute go-to knot for most applications. It's the Palomar knot. It is incredibly strong, I mean incredibly strong, and it's easy to tie as well. I use it on little jigs, Ned rig, straight onto little EWG things, depending on how you're tightening up. Maybe if you're fishing that in a Carolina rig setup, but this knot doesn't afford any movement. It's tight. It's tight to the actual ring which you attach it to, or whatever you attach it to. So let me show you how we do that. For the purposes of this, I'm using a much bigger head, just so I can show you what's going on. Okay, so what you do, you take probably about 3 or 4, let's say 4 inches of line, you double it over. And you pinch it. When you pinch it together, I'll just put a little bit of a should just put a little bit of a kink in it, which makes it easier to thread through. So we've got that, we've doubled it over. We bring it through the eye. For the purposes of this, I'm using a big jig head, but you can scale right down, and you pull it all the way through to probably about there. Right, so you've got something along the lines of that. Right, now what we do, we take it round and we pass it back through, so it looks like that. Then what I do is I just pull it right up to the top, get it all the way, So we've got like the loop, and all of the loop stuff is up at the end there. Next thing, you pass that tag end over the top, over everything, like that, and you pull it right over, and it comes over here. At this stage, this is a really useful tip. Just put your finger through the knot there, and just tighten it down onto your finger, like that. So all of the knot stuff's tightened up like that, away. Once that happens, then you can just pull, so, pull, 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 wet it, pull, 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 and down. Tighten right down, you can pull on both sides. There we go. And that will not go anywhere. You can tighten that right down like that. It's an incredibly powerful knot, like really powerful. Trim off the tag ends. And there you go. Guys, that covers you off for pretty much every situation. You know how to connect your fluorocarbon line to your to your braid. The Rapala knot you use for crankbaits, you use for jerkbaits, and you can also use it for your cheb rigs. And then the Palomar knot, pretty much for every other application, and you should have yourself covered. You can go out on the water and fish successfully, knowing that those knots aren't going to slip. I really enjoy making these videos, and I hope you guys enjoy watching them. I really like to get feedback from you guys, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If there's any knot which I'm missing, or you'd like to sort of tell me about some tweaks which you can do on any of these things. So please get in contact, leave some comments. I really like to read them. Until next time, best of luck with your own fishing adventures, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Okay, bye guys.